Now, I love to follow the weather to forecast my hunt, and I'm talking about that a lot during the rut, talking about a lot during the October lull and all season long, because I base all of my hunts on the weather. So I am constantly looking at the weather sources, the weather apps on the phone, and trying to predict when is the best time to hunt. I've been doing this since the early 90s, when I had to rely on the marine weather forecasts out of the Thumb area, Michigan, up into Saginaw Bay. And I would listen literally on the way to the property in the morning on the radio in the truck. And there were several times I actually turned around because it wasn't the forecasted weather that was in the Oakland Press out of southern Michigan. Back in the early 2000s, I can remember my buddy Tim and I coming out here hunting, and we would call our family in Wisconsin here. We'd call our family at home and have them give us the weather forecast on weather.com for several days out. We would write the winds down, the wind speed, and when it changed, and that's how we followed it. So these weather forecasts and weather apps, and everyone online, every time I put something out about the weather, what weather app do you use, what weather site do you use? And so I wanted to go over that, but not only that, how do I look at it and how I read the weather just based on the phone. And so I have AccuWeather pulled up right here. I believe that when you're using the weather, I love to hunt as much as I can, but I don't hunt a lot because I only hunt the good weather days. And for that, I generally tag out with my buck license every year, 2 licenses or more, because I only hunt by the weather. My odds of success are many, many, many times over because I'm not burning out my stands. I'm hunting the split brow buck tonight, for example. He's been there on the 14th, the 16th on our trail camera. In the evening, I'm going to go up there and hunt. The winds are perfect, and I'm hoping to see him. And I'll start, the AccuWeather. The first thing I'm doing with AccuWeather, and many of you have seen some of my charts I've used on my videos or on my articles, and I've been writing about this for over 10 years, 12 years. I've been following the weather since the early 90s. I have my all-weather whitetail book out that I wrote last year. This is something I've been teaching, preaching, and following for decades. And so to anybody who'll listen, because it's so successful, I want you to be successful. I truly do, or why even bother doing these videos? They're not for entertainment, obviously, or you'd probably watch another channel. I want to give you good information. So what I do all season long, obviously I don't hunt every day, but I look at the weather several times a day, is I pull up AccuWeather, which I have right here. A lot of times I start with the daily forecast. So it gives today, Friday, October 18th, Saturday, Sunday. And what I start doing is I start looking in the weather. As I scroll through here, I scroll back, they stick these little ads in there, and looks like there's the little gap in there. But so today a high 63, tomorrow a high 59, Sunday a high 61. When I move that to Monday, the weather front's coming through, and this has been forecasted for at least 8 to 10 days in the forecast. You could have seen this almost a week and a half ago. But on Monday it's 57 and rainy. You can start to see those temperatures. For example, Sunday, the low on Sunday is actually the morning temperature for Monday. I hope that makes sense. So when they say 50 degrees on Sunday, on 10/20, that actually refers to Monday morning. So you can see from Monday morning to Tuesday morning, it drops from 50 degrees on Monday morning to 41 degrees. That will be Tuesday morning. You can see it then drops to 35 degrees on Wednesday morning. And I bet around here with the valleys we have, that 35 means frost. That's usually what happens if you're a student of the weather. If you notice too, you can see it drops from 61 for a high on Sunday, which is the high for Sunday, to Monday at 57, and then Tuesday 49. So if there's still some weather around on Tuesday morning, some wind and some rain, but it settles down Tuesday night. Tuesday night is going to be an incredible night to hunt. And when you add that into the pre-rut, which it is the pre-rut by that time, 10/22, I look at the last 10 days of October. If it's really hot, the mature bucks aren't going to be very active at all. If it's really cool, they're going to be very active. And so a lot of times more in the morning than in the evening. We're seeing the split brow buck. He's moving about an hour, hour and a half before dark. And hoping to see him tonight, like I said. You also look at the morning lows. So you look at the morning lows from 50 on Sunday, 41 On Monday, 35. Tuesday, again, 35 for a low, refers to Wednesday morning. I hope that really makes sense, and I'm not repeating myself too much, but I really hope you guys understand that. That first time that it has a chance of being frosty, that 35 degrees, and again, I bet that's with our valley around here, it's going to be 32, low 30s, maybe even the high 20s. That's going to be Wednesday morning. So what I'm doing right now when it's pre-rut, I'm really starting to focus on the morning, a huge priority in the morning. I'm not going to hunt an evening stand where I'm going to potentially blow out a high quality morning stand. So I'm looking next week. I'm seeing Wednesday, that's going to be 35 degrees. Thursday is going to be 35 degrees in the morning, but it's rainy. There's going to be some weather, probably some wind with that. So I'm going to look at, I might not hunt Thursday. And then when it gets into Friday, you see 32 degrees forecasted for Friday morning, 32 degrees forecasted for Saturday. Folks, you can't miss those days. And so I'm looking at these days, 8-10 days out, and I'm seeing this, and I'm looking at like, well, there's warm weather this weekend. A great time to scout some public land in Minnesota that Diane's probably going to go with me over there, and we have a spot picked out. We're going to go up to our 25 acres we own in Buffalo County. We own that little piece. Took me years to save for and get, but we have that, and we're just allowing that to get into the rut. We've seen some 3-year-old bucks on there. We're going to maybe change some trail cam cards. Good weekend for spending time with the family, maybe sitting in the evening here or there, but not really getting into those good morning spots. But boy, next week it comes in those morning spots, and that's where I look at this daily forecast. You can see right up here, I just click on daily, and it gives me this. That's what I'm doing. The next step is once it gets into within 72 hours, I'm just clicking on hourly. So hourly breaks it down. You can see it's 12 p.m. right now when we're shooting this video on October 18th. That tells me on this right now, wind at 13 miles an hour, gust to 26, 56 degrees. What I like about this day and this evening sit are those high winds directly. When I see high winds popping up like that and I'm hunting in a lower elevation, or I'm hunting on the downwind side of a bunch of conifers in a swamp, or I'm hunting on the downwind side of a giant switchgrass field, really thick brush, then I know that's going to be the lee side, and that's where you can expect a higher percentage of the deer. Deer actually move during the wind, but I look at it like they're moving in the wind to get out of the wind. And so tonight when I'm sitting down low, it'll be actually about 60 yards below where we sat this morning. There's hardly a leaf stirring, but the winds are really blowing up 200 feet above us in elevation. And I believe it pushes a high percentage of the bucks and deer in general down to lower. So I can expect a good sit tonight. But as I thumb through here, you can see south-southeast winds at 2. South-southeast winds at 4. You can see from 2, instead of 15 to 24, meaning 24 gusts, it's turning to 15 to 21. So the wind's starting to settle down. 5 o'clock, 14 to 20. By 7 o'clock, it's 13 to 17. And so I can expect those south-southeast winds to stay pretty consistent, and that's perfect for that stand. It's actually the number one wind for that stand. What I continue to do is I continue to look at these hourly forecasts. You can see that at 11 p.m., south starts entering into that wind forecast. And again, I've assigned what days I want to hunt, and you can even click on those days in the daily forecast. It'll tell you daytime and nighttime wind and wind direction, and that way you can at least plan 7-8 days in advance, start to begin to plan. But once you get 72 hours out, it's really solid. So in this forecast, south-southeast winds pretty heavy, south at 11 p.m., south at 2 a.m. And what I'm looking for, it's obviously warming up over the weekend. You can see it's changing to south-southwest by 7 and southwest by noon. Now, that's not a drastic change in the direction, but in this sit, because it's going to be changing to southwest overnight, I can expect some of those winds to start, the winds always foreshadow. So they're going to let me know that southwest winds are going to start creeping into the forecast. It doesn't just all of a sudden go from southeast to southwest. And certainly if you have a wind that's changing to northwest, for example, a cold front's coming in, and it's the beginning edge of that cold front. If I have a southwest wind forecasted through 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and then 10, 11, 2 in the morning, even next morning, some heavy northwest winds are coming in, then you're going to get that northwest wind during your sit in the evening. People say, well, the wind's swirling, and it does in these hills. It swirls like crazy. But in flat areas, they'll say, yeah, they just kept getting that wind on my back all of a sudden. Well, a lot of times that wind is forecasted, and it'll show that it's 2, 3, 4 in the morning. You're sitting till 7 the night before, and it's changing almost 180 degrees. Well, you can expect that wind to foreshadow. You might not get it every 30 seconds or every minute, but you're probably going to get it every 5 to 10 minutes. And it sure seems like it comes in an inopportune time when a buck's right out in front of you. So make sure you're looking ahead in the forecast, and you're looking through this hourly forecast and really looking to see when those winds change. And I can look down to 10 p.m. tomorrow night and it's still south. I can flip to Sunday and see, and again, if it's warm temperatures, it's probably going to still be south. If you're getting rain coming in like you're on Monday, then it's probably going to start changing to more easterly. So if you're watching this every day, you can see the form and the weather, the way it's changing. This is so much better than me just saying, hunt Monday, hunt Wednesday, hunt Thursday night, and you go out and hunt it. If you're being a student of the weather and you're watching this, this is something that you can learn and watch and figure out for yourself so far in advance. And then you can compare it to what's gone on with your own individual sites. And I can look back when the split brow buck was walking through in that direction on the 14th and the 16th, and he was walking through with southeast, and then he was walking through with south-southwest, southwest winds, which is directly what we have tonight. So I'm not doing something that he's not doing or he's not moving on. So I use this AccuWeather. The next one I use a lot is I use Weather Underground, where one of the no-brainer weather influencers that you can hang your hat on. Now you're going to miss days that you should be hunting, but the no-brainer, really high quality value days, if you just look on Weather Underground and you look at the charts and graphs and the forecast, when the temperature drops and it's as low as it's going to get, and when the barometric pressure comes up and meets that point right there where I'm circling, or I've circled in the past, that's just a no-brainer time to hunt, exceptional time to hunt. Now there's also times where the pressure can be low and you're in between fronts. There's been a 20-degree drop, a 15-degree drop. The conditions have lessened or are not at all. Winds have been cut from 30 miles an hour or 25 down to 12 or 8. It doesn't have to be calm. In fact, I find that a lot of times if it's calm, the deer aren't moving as much. But you'll see those times where a low pressure is evident, but you've had change in extreme weather, you've had change in extreme winds, and you've had a major temperature drop, and then it's an exceptional time to get out into the woods. And a lot of models that are based on barometric pressure are going to lead you astray. And that's why I want you to learn how to read these portions. Those are many extra days. I would say that of all those days where the Jared Archer, previous client of mine, friend, someone that I've kept in contact for several years, he put a quote out, when temps and pressure meet, bucks will be on their feet. So if you can remember that, that's his saying. So he made that up, and all this stuff that he and I would talk about the weather, and that is so true. But if you only hunt by that, you're going to miss about half the great days to hunt. So you don't want to just follow that. But I use that for that forecast. I use that for that graph going out. And it's really easy to see. But again, in weather.com, I'll jump on there and I'll check out and see if those winds are aligning, the speeds, and then I'm trying to learn the weather. Obviously, if it's, people say there's northwest wind all hunting season long, and that's just not true. If it's northwest winds all the time, that means the temperatures are dropping, or northerly winds, the temperatures are dropping every day of the season, and that just doesn't happen. In fact, the stable winds are southwest. They're south, southeast, south. Those are more your 35% winds during hunting season, meaning they're there 35% of the time, because that's all those winds are present when the weather moderates. Northwest wind, again, is when it's dropping. When it's stable, it's south-southeast. This weekend it's going to be south-southeast, south-southwest, southwest, boringly every day until Monday when the conditions change and the moisture comes in. But when it's south and blowing hard, you know that it's going to warm up, and that's what's going on today. And I'm going to hunt down on the lee side. I can get in and out of it's one of our closest stands. I think it is actually the closest stand that I can get into and out. I don't have to walk through any bedding areas, through food sources, anything. I have a really good entrance, exit, low impact. But boy, I'm right on the edge of some outstanding movement that we've even found just during the last week. It's been incredible. So I'm looking at that. The daily forecast, I'm starting with that first. Then when it's 72 hours out, I'm really narrowing it down to the exact wind for the exact tree stand that I want to sit. I'm already identifying those days well in advance. I really don't care where I'm sitting 8 to 10 days out. I can start to think about it, dream about it, but I'm assigning that those are great days to sit, and they'll be pretty accurate, 7 to 10 days out. And they might change by a half day at the most. But then once it narrows down, I'm hitting that hourly button. And on that hourly, I can just click down on a particular time period. Those winds, wind direction, those have to do with very large weather patterns and jet streams. Very accurate, the most accurate portion of the forecast. How much rain, if it rains, if it snows, how much snow. Those are very inaccurate at times. So once you're seeing that a long ways out, then I'm moving it at 72 hours, and that's when I'm making critical and defined stand location assessments and saying, okay, in this 72 hours, I'm hunting in this stand for this morning. This stand over here, that might be an X of movement between bedding areas and food sources where I can hunt it all day. Might hunt that one on one day, and then I'm hunting over here. Another day, I'm hunting here in the evening. So I'll map out my sits over that 72 hours so I know exactly where. I just take a very methodical approach. I don't care what stand I'm hunting in. They're all good, or I wouldn't have them out there, or I'd get rid of them the next season. So I'm very methodical approach. I'm assigning the best days. Then when it gets down into hourly, I'm assigning the wind, direction, which stand I'm hunting, and then I map that out. And if I really want to look at those barometric pressure and temperature relationships, and I don't have time to hunt a lot of days, those are the days that you cannot miss. And even if it's just very easy to look at that, see where they meet, you get out there. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that every day. I'm using AccuWeather. I look at it all season long. And it's pretty easy. You can just hit the search button up there, put whatever city you're in. And that's what I do with clients. I have clients sometimes. Bob, I was working with him yesterday. I was on his property a couple days this year. Great fella down over in southwest Wisconsin. Love working with him, and designed his whole property. He's put so much time and effort, and he's sending me a lot of mature buck pictures. So we went over again. He can't walk like he used to as far as getting into deep remote stands, so he's taking a golf cart in. So a little bit of extra attention to detail as far as how he's getting into his stands. So we've already been talking together about which stands he should use next Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Friday, because he's not that far from me. He's an hour and a half. And I can't wait for Bob to sit, let alone everyone else. I love helping people. Pretty easy to put in this information wherever you're at. And by the way, I do have my all-weather whitetail book that I created because of the weather. I believe it's 14 or 15 chapters long. It'll guide you to success. It's worked for me for decades. And, you know, to me, it's kind of the same analogy of fish, where, you know, you can give someone some fish, give them some dinner, or you teach them how to fish and give them food for a lifetime. I know that's not exactly how it goes, but that's the way it is with the weather here. I'm not giving you a certain day to hunt. I hope you can understand the weather, read it yourself, and figure it out. And it'll give you a tool. It's a tool, and it's a high value success, and a very defined success, and it can offer you success for the rest of your life for deer hunting, when it comes to deer hunting and knowing which days to hunt and which days to get the most out of your hunt. A lot of people out there, just real quick, they're saying, I can't hunt every day of the year. These strategies on the weather were born out of me being able to only leave my family for 2 or 3 days at a time. I've hardly ever been, I don't even know if I've been on 2 hunts that lasted 6 days or longer. I've been on hunts where I come out for a weekend, my buddy's out for 9 days, the weather gets hot, I come back, shoot a buck 4 days later because I wanted to go home and work, and I just can't be gone for weeks at a time. I'm not. So I try to value my days off. I'd rather have one great Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening, Thursday morning than a 5-day weekend, if that weekend is warm. So I'm put a high priority on this weather. This is the way I do it every day of the season. In fact, when the season ends in January or February, I still find myself looking at AccuWeather for about 2 weeks every day, hitting it several times a day, because that's the mode I'm in. And by the summertime, I'm hardly paying attention to the weather, but it's a hard habit to break at the end of the season, and I hope you get in the habit, because you can bring you success for a lifetime of deer hunting. And these are some of the tools that I watch, that I use, that help me with forecast every single day of the season.